Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. This is the Fiscal Year 20 New Applicant Grant Training. My name is Laurel Fisher, and I am the Grants Manager for Metro Arts. But beginning February 1st and throughout the FY20 cycle, you'll be working with Janine Cristiano, and her contact information is here on the first slide. She will be happy to answer any questions you may have. The following slides are an overview of the grants program so that you'll have a good idea of what we offer and what programs are available for the upcoming cycle. Let's get started. First, Metro Arts is driven by a theory of change, which was determined in our 2015 strategic plan for our agency. The vision that we have is that Nashvillians should all have access to a creative life. And so we meet those outcomes by accomplishing three community outcomes: vibrant creative neighborhoods, stronger creative workers, and a deeper cultural participation. So if your project aligns or your programming aligns with these focus areas, then we would like to talk to you further about applying for a grant with Metro Arts. A little bit more about our agency. The Metro Nashville Arts Commission was founded in 1978. We are a department of Metro Nashville-Davidson County, and so our organization is governed by a board of commissioners appointed by the mayor. We've been doing grant making since 1989 and have had many years and long-term partnerships with arts organizations and non-arts organizations in the Davidson County area. Our division is divided into these three sections. The grants component, of course, is who you're working with now and learning more about, but we also have a number of other programs in our community programs area as well as in public art. Racial equity and restorative justice are both very unique programs that if you want to learn more about, you can visit our website at artsnashville.org. Our public art programs also have a lot of resources available for not only private businesses, but individual artists, and a microfunding program for community-based art projects called Thrive. So if you're interested in learning more about Thrive, please visit our website or contact Lauren Fitzgerald. This is our team. These are the different members of our different teams in the department. Anyone can help you with some questions if you have general information questions, but related to grants specifically, you'll want to speak with Janine Cristiano or Rebecca Kinslow. This will give you a little bit of information about our grants and how much money we have to give away and what kind of impact our grants have made in recent years. Last year and the year prior, we gave away $2.47 million in grant funding to arts nonprofits or arts projects that were taking place and serving Davidson County residents. That included 42 different nonprofit organizations called grantees who collectively offered 1.2 million arts activities, served 75,000 students, and impacted or touched 3.3 million people. That would be folks living in Davidson County and those visiting from out of town. For our current cycle, we have, as I mentioned earlier, $2.47 million given away via 60 different grant contracts to 50 nonprofit organizations. That included 40 operating support grants and 19 project-based support grants. So we do have a distinction in our program between organizations who are arts-focused nonprofits who receive operating funding, and then 19 in this particular cycle were project-based programs, and those are specific to a program or a project fulfilling a specific need. Not to be discouraging, but there's always more requests than there are funds available. So as you can see with the past few fiscal years, we've received a number of requests, and our amount of money we're able to give out has slightly increased, but not able to meet the demand that we have in our city. In order to help us with this, we ask that you help us with advocacy and reaching out to your council members at Metro Council to ensure that the arts funding continues into FY20 and beyond. Our grants are divided into two parts. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, operating support are for exactly those kinds of expenses, whether it's space rental or paying for utilities or your part-time bookkeeper who helps you maintain the finances. Operating support can be used for staff and project-related funds, or project-related expenses, but it is for the basic operating of your organization. Organizations who have an average budget size of over $100,000 a year would apply in the basic operating support category, and those who have an average revenue of under $100,000 per year would apply in core operating support. One note, we are actually in a 3-year adjudication cycle for basic operating support. So if you are a new applicant in this category, you are able to apply in core operating support until the next adjudication cycle for that category. Basic operating support will be reviewed again in preparation for the fiscal year 2021 cycle. So until that time, you are able to take a look at the eligibility and criteria for core operating support. We offer 4 project support categories: Arts Access, Youth Arts, Catalyst, and Creation. The 2 listed first, Arts Access and Youth Arts, are for projects that specifically reach a specific population group. So in the case of Arts Access, those would be underinvested populations who may have not received the type of funding support or infrastructure support over time that they really deserve. Youth Arts, as it says, it supports those projects that are for youth ages 18 and under. Catalyst and Creation, however, are reviewed and reserved only for arts-focused nonprofits. And I'll dive in a little bit more in the following slides about each of these categories. First of all, let's find out if your organization is actually eligible to apply for a Metro Arts grant. The criteria are listed here. You must produce, present, or directly support artistic programs, projects, or works. The organization that is the applicant must be located and have a business address in Metro Nashville, Davidson County. You must be registered as a 501c3 nonprofit for at least 2 years. To determine that date, go take a look at the IRS Letter of Determination and find the stamped date on the top of that page, and that will help you determine whether your agency has been in existence for the minimum of 2 years that is required to be eligible to apply for grants. The nonprofit must be chartered in the state of Tennessee, and you must maintain a GivingMatters.com profile. If you're unfamiliar with GivingMatters.com, please visit their website. They are a program of the Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee, and the staff at the Community Foundation will be happy to help you create a new profile or update an existing profile. Here's a little bit more information about those 2 operating support categories that I mentioned earlier. To receive basic operating support, the organization must have an average revenue of over $100,000 per year. They have to have been in existence and offered 3 years worth of programming. At least 6 months per year is considered an active arts nonprofit for this particular category. The grant request amount cannot exceed 20% of the average revenue. If you need help calculating that number, just give us a call and we'll help determine what that number is. No organization can request a grant more than $300,000. And also, the review cycle for this category is now on a 3-year cycle. So those organizations who applied in FY18 will be able to apply again in fiscal year 21. In the meantime, if there are new organizations who are interested in joining this category, you can apply annually in core operating support until the next adjudication cycle. In this category, organizations have an average revenue of under $100,000 per year. They have at least 2 years of history operating as a nonprofit, and they too can request up to 20% of their average revenue not to exceed $20,000. Again, if you need assistance determining what the maximum request amount is, feel free to give us a call. Arts Access, as I mentioned before, serves underinvested populations. For our criteria, those include seniors, people of color, people with disabilities, new Americans, low-income households, members of the LGBTQIA community, rural areas, and those who have limited access to the arts. A maximum request in this category is $7,000. Similarly, the youth arts category is reserved specifically for projects that serve youth 18 years of age and under. This category too is limited to a maximum request amount of $7,000. Catalyst and Creation are both reserved for arts-focused nonprofits, which means that if an organization is eligible to receive operating support from Metro Arts, they are also eligible to apply in one of these categories, Catalyst or Creation. Catalyst is a new category for us. It is used to support projects that will address capacity building within an organization. So it is an internal focused program. So if there's an issue or an area of improvement that could really benefit and deepen the organization's ability to meet its mission, then these are the projects that we'd like to see come to the table for a Catalyst funding. The maximum request for this category is $10,000. Creation projects are similarly reserved for arts-focused organizations. Projects that result in the creation of an original work are those that are eligible for this category. We believe in funding the creation process itself. So if you have a new work that has yet to be performed, those projects are not eligible for a creation grant. Creation grants are reserved for those that are in their infancy in terms of the development of the program and content. So keep that in mind when you're considering applying for a creation grant. Those requests have a maximum of $20,000. All of our grants utilize a scoring criteria to evaluate the quality of each proposal. In our Metro Arts grants programs, all of them address these 3 areas: the community, the art, and the organization. And that is how the application is divided. We will be looking for, and the panelists will be looking for, if the project or the programming is accessible to the community, that you understand the community that you are hoping to serve, and that there is a benefit to the community. The art, we will be looking for artistic and cultural merit, the artistic vision of the artistic leader, and how that vision is communicated to the rest of the organization and board of directors. And you are paying artists and helping support the creative workforce in Davidson County. In the organization section, we'll be looking for organizational health. Are there proper plans in place, such as strategic plans or development plans? Is there a strong leader in place Tell us about the board of directors. What is the makeup of that group? And do you regularly assess your programs to ensure that they are meeting the mission? Some questions may address arts advocacy efforts, but those will be limited to certain categories only. Financial health assessment is included in operating support applications only. This section is reviewed by financial reviewers who are either CPAs or other finance professionals in the community and is not reviewed by the community panel. They will review 2 years, or in some cases 3 years, worth of financial statements, including audits or Forms 990, and they will assess the financial health of the organization. And they will be looking for these particular areas. Is there a good balance between revenue and expenses? Is there a trend toward growth in the organization? And are there plans in place for sustainability, such as setting up a reserve fund or a rainy day fund to ensure that a small expense would not cause the programming to be altered or for the programming to not happen at all? So those scores correlate with the scoring rubric at the top of the page, and those financial reviewers review these materials separate from the other panel documents. Catalyst is specifically for those projects that are internal focused or are capacity building projects. Therefore, they have their own set of scoring criteria, which you can see here. And basically, we are looking for, have you taken a look at your scenario in your organization? Have you done a full analysis of what is needed? And is this issue that you'd like to address with a Catalyst grant, is it significant? Is it going to change the way your organization functions or help it be stronger and more sustainable over time? And is your staff have the capacity to be able to take on a project of this kind? And how will you measure its success and its future success for years to come? So you can access the scoring guide on the Metro Arts website, where you can look further and keep this handy as you're creating the narrative answers for your application. There are a few program rules that you want to keep in mind. Every grant that Metro Arts awards is a dollar-for-dollar matching grant, which means if you receive a grant for $5,000 from Metro Arts, the grant must be matched with $5,000 from another source, not Metro Nashville government. That would include any funds from other Metro sources, but especially there cannot be Metro Arts money matched with Metro Arts money. So keep that in mind when you're planning. So if you have a $14,000 project, you can ask for a maximum of $7,000 from us, and you can request $7,000 from other sources. Those can be existing funds, those can be other foundation grants, they can be corporate sponsorships. There's a number of options there, but please note that you must make up the remaining dollars, dollar for dollar, for any amount that you receive. There is a maximum of 3 applications that an organization can submit in 1 year. You will either apply for one operating grant or core operating support or basic operating support, not both. You can apply for a youth arts grant or an arts access grant in one cycle. You cannot apply for both in the same granting cycle. The same goes for creation and catalyst. You would have to choose which category you would want to apply in one particular cycle. If you'd like to change that in future cycles, that is acceptable. But please keep in mind you can only apply for 3 grants in one cycle. You must disclose to us too any other Metro funds that are received by your organization. Details on that are listed in the guidelines, and they need to be listed in a formal letter addressed to our executive director, notating any other contracts or other funding received from Metro sources. Metro Arts grants cannot be used for a number of specific expenses, and they are listed here. We cannot fund capital projects, meaning the remodeling of a building or a purchase of a building, religious content, political lobbying activities, the reduction of debts, fundraising events, or food and beverages. So when you're preparing what you would like to ask Metro Arts to support in your budget, make sure you've gone through to ensure that these items are not listed in that project budget. To apply, you will use web grants listed here, which is our online grants management system. There are 3 sections to the application. You must complete all 3 sections in order to submit your application. You must also provide a copy of your givingmatters.com profile. There are a place for other attachments. You may request a draft review from the Metro Arts staff. Those dates are listed in the guidelines. So if you would like a Metro Arts staff member to review your narrative answers that you've already prepared, and we will be happy to provide some specific feedback and ways you can strengthen your application. Draft reviews must be submitted to us by the deadline stated in the guidelines. We will not be able to take draft reviews after that date in order to be able to give you proper feedback and us have time to review those submissions. And make sure you make note of the application deadlines. There are different deadline dates and times, and the application form does turn off and close at those stated times. So make sure you notate when those application deadlines are, and ensure that your materials are submitted well before that time. Web grants looks like this. So when you go to the site and you're a new user, you'll need to go to the section on the right that says New to Metro Arts and click Register here. It will then ask you to provide some personal information so that we can create a user account for you in the system. Once your user registration has been approved, you will then have access to the web grants system. This is the welcome or main page of web grants. So every time you log in, this is the first page you will see. To find new funding opportunities or what applications are open currently, you will click on Funding Opportunities. After clicking on that link, you will come to this page and you will see the various categories that are open currently. You can click on any one of them to learn more about each category. For instance, Core Operating Support is listed here. You can see the maximum award amount, when projects can start and end, and some other information taken from the guidelines so that you have all the information you need before starting an application. In order to start a new application, go to the top right-hand side of the screen and click Start a New Application. Once you've begun a new application, you will see the different components of the grant. Each of these components must be completed and marked as complete before your application can be submitted. As I mentioned earlier, there's the different narrative portions of the application listed here: the community, the art, the organization, and in this case a financial health assessment, since we're looking at the core operating support category, a budget form, attachments that are support materials that can support your application, and then an assurances page. The most challenging part of every grant application is completing the budget. When you get to this page, you'll be able to see the different expense type categories. Please note that the titles of the columns correlate with what you're requesting Metro Arts pay for. So in the grant expenses column, you will be listing how you would spend a Metro Arts grant if you were awarded those funds. In the match expenses column, you will be listing where you will spend the matching dollars. For instance, if you are asking Metro Arts to pay $10,000 for your artistic personnel staff, you would put $5,000 in grant expenses and then $5,000 in the matching expenses, showing that you will raise the $5,000 from another source. You do not necessarily have to put the matching funds in the same expense line item, although many applicants do. If you have some ideas or want to talk through how to fill out the budget form before you get too far into it, feel free to call the Metro Arts staff and we will assist you with this portion. You will then upload it to the first attachment selection on the support materials page. You will then be required to at least submit one other additional piece of support material. This could be a photo of a past project. It could be an article in which your performance was reviewed. It could be a lesson plan that is specific to this project. Make your case with the support materials section. This is for your visual and audio learners on the panel who want to see, hear, taste, touch all the different wonderful artistic components of your program. So make sure you use this section to highlight that. Feel free to even include videos if you would like, especially those that are posted to YouTube or Vimeo. You can put those links in the narrative box here that's labeled links, and you can put those there, and then the panelists will be able to easily view the material that way. Draft reviews for this year are due on these dates. So if you would like a Metro Arts staff person to review your operating support application, you must email Janine Cristiano on or before February 25th. The same is the case for project grants. If you would like a Metro Arts staff member to review your Arts Access, Youth Arts, Creation, or Catalyst project proposal, you must email Janine Cristiano and request that by March the 4th. You do not need to submit the application in WebGrants. Just make sure your answers are saved in the system, and we will be able to take a look from our end to review what material has been posted. Once the Metro Arts staff member has completed their draft review, they will contact you and set up a time for either an in-person or phone meeting to discuss the suggestions that they have. Deadlines are at 4:30 p.m. on both application deadline dates. For operating support, that deadline is on March the 20th, and for all project proposals, the deadline is March the 27th. Please mark these dates and times on your calendar and be sure to submit your materials before 4:30 p.m. After the application is received, there is a panel review process that goes on immediately following. First, the Metro Arts staff will ensure that your application is eligible. Then, your application will be distributed to a panel of volunteer panelists who have been trained and have agreed to serve as reviewers for this particular category. After they have had time to review the application materials, they come together in a public meeting format and review the applications collectively. You will be invited to that panel meeting in case the panelists have questions for you. That way you will be able to answer any clarifying questions that they may have. From that panel meeting, an average score is assigned to each application. Panels tend to have between 4 and 5 members on them, and so the scores from those 4 or 5 individuals will be averaged to create that final score. Final scores are then correlate with a ranking. So in a particular category, if the highest scoring application received a 95, that person or that organization, that project proposal is ranked number 1. If the next highest scoring application is scored a 92, then that organization is now ranked number 2 in the category, and ranking continues in that format until all submitted applications have been assigned a rank. Ranking is what is used by the Metro Arts staff and the Metro Arts Commission to determine how much money each grant award will receive. That process is called allocation of funds. The allocation process takes some time, so while we won't be able to release awards immediately, please know that there is a lot of activity happening related to your grant proposal between the panel meeting and the time awards are released. So those calculated averages are done, rankings are created, then the Metro budget at Metro Council is discussed and reviewed. Once we determine what that Metro budget number is for our grants program for the upcoming year, we can then begin allocating the awards for the upcoming fiscal year. Our grants committee will review that information and make changes as necessary. The Metro Arts Commission will then review them, make edits as necessary, and vote on those award amounts. We anticipate having the awards released on June the 20th, 2019. That is subject to change depending on the budget for the city of Nashville. We will release the awards as soon as possible. Projects that are funded by a Metro Arts grant can begin on July the 1st for the upcoming cycle. Thank you for taking the time to review this new applicant grant training. I hope that it has provided you with an overview of our program and how it works. And for any additional questions, as I mentioned before, please don't hesitate to contact us at the Metro Arts office. We look forward to working with you.